Welcome to the Thundercast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week. So keep it right here. The Thundercast is on the loose. Every championship defense has an identity. In 2026, Marshall's may rest squarely on the shoulders of its linebackers. With Brad Lambert back at the controls, can this group become the disruptive force that powers a Sun Belt championship run? That's the question we'll answer in this edition of the Thundercast Position Group Breakdown Series. Thanks for downloading another episode of the Thundercast. You can follow us on Twitter at Thundercast_pod. And listen to the show anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast and watch us on the Thundercast YouTube channel. And while you're there, click the like, share the episodes, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, if you got them, hit the hype points because we sure do like those too. Russ, this is a one I'm looking forward to because this is a point of emphasis for Tony Gibson and a Tony Gibson defense. We know he's made his money throughout his career on linebackers. And this room looks rebuilt. No, I don't know if rebuilt's the right word. Revamped in such a way that it might be quite a bit better than it was in 25, and it was pretty good in 25. So what do you think? How do you like it?
So it's a little weird mix for me because of what we lost in production, but I expect that production to be replaced and then some, I guess, switching schemes, players that will see the field a lot more than they did last year. A little bit of both, but I'm high on the unit. And I think when we start telling you why, I think that you, the viewer, listener, are going to say, yeah, okay, yeah, I see that. I'm real hyped for him now, too.
Well, I don't think there's really any reason to not be at least at a minimum optimistic. You don't, if you're not quite at excited yet, I get that, like as a general fan, because we've got the luxury of diving deep into all of these position groups as we prepare for all of these shows. So we're a little bit ahead of most fans in consuming this information, but we're not alone in being pretty positive about this. I mean, Phil still ranked this unit tied for 4th in the Sun Belt with Louisiana, and that is taking into account everything that either exhausted eligibility or transferred out, and it was some very, very productive players. But I think there's a great nucleus that returns. I think there are some youngsters that were pretty young last year that got better and better last year that are going to break out a little larger this year. I mean, there were a couple of preseason selections by Phil Steele. Both JaVale Gilmore and Jalen Marshall were both second-team All-SBC selections. And just the other day, the Sun Belt Conference put out their preseason selections, and JaVale Gilmore lands on the second-team defense by the Sun Belt. So there is some respect. It's not elite-level respect, but there's, like with most other position groups we've talked about, there's quite a bit still to prove. Because of some of the turnover in the group. But I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. I think this unit is coached this year by Brad Lambert, who's also, of course, the new defensive coordinator. He's had several stints with the Herd before and always fielded really good defenses, even if we weren't overall stellar teams. Those defenses were really freaking good. So that makes that, as a Herd fan, ought to make you feel good because he's not just put good defenses on the field. He's done it in Huntington. So he's proven it can be done. Let's give a little bit of context. I'll give some general stats from last year so we can provide some context about what happened. Now, mind you, this is not all encompassing. This is just 4 major stats that I picked out of nowhere, not nowhere, but pulled out to kind of provide some context. First, you got to talk points per game. This defense allowed 30.3 points per game last year. That was 107th in the country. Most people, when you're talking linebackers, are going to then point to rush yards allowed per game, and that was 148.9, which was 68th. Not terrible, but not great. And then I look at third down defense and fourth down defense. Neither one was also very stellar, but it was just kind of ho hum. 39.89% of the time we gave up a third down, first down, which was 72nd in the country. And 52.8% of the time, offenses were picking up the fourth down against the herd. That was, well, 69th in the country. So some of these numbers you would think with better linebacker play would go down. And specifically, that points per game number has got to get a whole lot better. Before we get into some departures, do you have any quick takes on just the stats that I spit out there as I attribute them to linebackers?
Not really, because I don't want to dispel anything that you said because everything was accurate. But I think there was just so much from the defensive backfield with the chunk plays that skewed a lot of our defensive numbers that it is so hard. No one, even advanced analytics, is going to have a hard time saying, well, linebackers gave up this many points, linebackers gave up this many yards. So I I couldn't begin to analyze it any better than the stats that you put up, basically.
Yeah, I mean points per game we're going to talk about again when we do the
Right.
defensive back breakdown. So because this is a
Right.
general defensive stat, but
Yeah.
there is some turnover, and we've got to talk about the guys that departed. So as per the norm, I'm sure you've got a list of departures that we can run through.
I do. Jalen Parker, he was eligibility is the reason that he's no longer with us. Jabril Alameen, he transferred to Kansas. Zane Porter, also eligibility. On Martin, eligibility. Rashawn Carr, it's a medical, was the reason for him. Don't want to get into the why, but he is still in school. He is still around the football program, actually works in the football office, but not on the team, and it's a medical retirement.
Okay.
So I hate to hear that for Rashawn. I was really high, looking forward to what he could do. He played a lot with us on special teams, but not going to be on the roster. And then finally, Jaden Johnson mainly played special teams last year. I think he transferred in last year. He came back here, and then he transferred out. But he has not found a team that I've seen announced. He has not announced where he's going to be yet. So we have one medical, one transfer to another team, and the rest were just two transfers to another team. One of them has actually found a team, and the rest were just eligibility.
Yeah. So when you look at guys like El Amin, Parker, and on Martin in particular, that was a
Mhm.
lot of production. That was
A
a
lot of
whole lot of
production.
production, and not just we're not just talking about tackles here.
Hmm.
On Martin had a real knack for getting into the backfield, specifically
Hmm.
early in the season. He strung together 2 or 3 games in a row where he was just a
Yeah.
force to be reckoned
Mental.
with.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the year, Alamin really turned it on
Hmm.
the latter half of the year. He really
Hmm.
turned it on and became a really solid all around linebacker. A guy that I thought might stay with the program since he followed some of the coaches from Jack State up here. But hey, man, we wish them all the best, but they are not on the 2026 roster, and therefore they cannot contribute to any championship aspirations for the herd. Russ, I think it's a great time to talk about our presenting sponsor for the
Hmm.
2026 Position Group Breakdown Series, and that's Secure Construction Company. For the past several weeks, you have heard us talk about Secure Construction Company if you need roof repair or roof replacements. Well, we're going
Hmm.
to tell you about something else that they are into that they can do for you as part of a home renovation. And that's if you're in need of some type of bathroom facelift. Secure Construction Company should be the first call that you make
Hmm.
yet again. Russ will give you a few more details, but we're going to give you a little bit more info about what Secure Construction can do for you.
Remember, same company, still family owned, still been around since the year 2000, still best in the tri state the last 14 years running. None of that changes. We're not talking about a totally different company here. Still massive herd fans. But how many do you know that need to have their bathroom done as they get a little age on them? Maybe it's a grab bar in the shower, maybe it's stuff in the external part around the shower and everything that you need these grab bars. Just make it a little bit safer to step in and out. All of us, man, even at my age, getting in and out of a bathtub's a lot different than when I was 15 to 20 years old. But they do all this. So they can do a full bathroom makeover, or they can just make the existing bathroom a lot more safe and secure. So let's hear a little bit about secure construction with their bathrooms.
Hey, Tri-State, do you have an ugly, unsafe shower? Secure Construction can help. People fall every day in showers that are unsafe. Secure Construction can come and give you a free estimate on a new safe shower that will transform your bathroom. Give us a call today to speak with one of our shower experts and get a free estimate on a new, safe shower now. Secure Construction. Home improvement in secure hands.
Again, we certainly do appreciate Secure Construction Company for coming aboard this year and helping us present the 2026 Position Group Breakdown Series to you, the Herd fans. Russ, I guess it's time now to talk about some newcomers to the program. Let's talk about those guys that are joining the 2026 Herd or already have and will hope to make an impact as we make a championship run in 26.
Just so I don't forget, do you mind if I do the returning players first before
Sure.
I get to there? Because that's how I have them listed. So I'll list those and then I'll get right into the newcomers. Uh, got some number changes here to go over. So I'm going to give numbers for these. Several of them have changed. Number 5, Javay Gilmore, 6'4", 213, down from 220 last year. Number 6, Jalen Marshall, 6'2", 227. He was 222 last year. Number 10, Chasen Clark, 6'1", 205, up 10 pounds from 195 last year. Cannon Lewis, number 27, 6'2", 226 pounds. He was 223 last year. This is a big change. Number 30, Josiah Simmons, 6'2", 228. Came in last year as a freshman, 249 pounds. So I think that they've got him a little bit more in the, hey, we don't need as much size. We need speed and coverage. Number 40, Ryan Ayers, 6'1", 189. He was listed as 6'2", 195 last year. So 6'1" to 6'2"-ish and right around the same weight. And then number 47, EJ McAdams, 6'1", 214 pounds, 207 last year. So put on a little muscle there as well. And now the newcomers. We have 2 from high school, done from the transfer portal. Number 31, Bryson Davies, listed at 5'11", 199 pounds, Northgate High School, and that's in Noonan, Georgia. And then number 33, Andre Parker, 5'11", 188 pounds, Princeton High School out of Cincinnati. That's your 2 that will be new to this unit.
I want to put an asterisk beside that, and I want to remind everybody that through the portal cycle last year, the guy we talked about in the defensive line episode, Kelvin McBride, who's now listed as one of 2 players, it's an edge rusher for the Herd, was going through the portal cycle as a linebacker. And then when he got to Marshall, they decided to do a position change. So, yes, you're right. No linebackers came through in the transfer portal, but they did. But then we transferred or changed the position. So, still a guy that I think you have to talk about when talking about this room, because when we talked about defensive line, we talked about how McBride would be a very hybrid type player that might drop back into coverages. You might see him lining up on an outside linebacker spot, depending on what the scheme is that we're running. So it's just a guy that you have to mention when talking about linebackers. I'll do it several times throughout this episode, but I just wanted to remind everybody of that point. Of course, McBride is a redshirt junior, 6'2", 222. So a nice piece that you must consider when talking about these linebackers. Russ, let's move into some projected starters here. What do you say?
Yeah, I have 3 is how I listed them because we're going to talk about a bunch of different sets here. They might be in the 3-3-5 a little bit. They might be in the 4-2-5, and they might be sometimes in a 3-4 or 3-3-5 and drop McBride back and switch it up to a 3-4 like we just talked or you just said. So I listed 3, and then I'll have heavy contributors after there. Do you have 3 as well?
I can do that.
All right. I'm going to start off with Jave Gilmore. It's someone that was the most production returning from last year, but also someone we were extremely high on last year and continue to be high on this year.
Yeah, I too have JaVale Gilmore. You said it just a minute ago. The redshirt senior, 6'4", 213 pounds. I don't know if I can call him the leader of this defense, but I sure can't not call him the leader of this defense. The guy's an animal, very instinctive, very fast, got a nose for finding the football, and the production says that. He is built, dude. He is built for a
Mm-hmm.
Brad Lambert defense, man.
Mm-hmm.
The height, the weight, the speed, the athleticism. 63 tackles last year, 24 of those solo, 11 and a half tackles for loss. He did notch a sack and a half, had 2 passes defended, and a forced fumble. Very, very, very productive year. JaVale is a guy that I feel like could edge up to that 85 plus tackles total this year if some things go right and he's able to stay healthy. He's absolutely a slam dunk. He's on 2 preseason all SBC lists, including the one by the conference. So if he puts together the right season, you might be looking definitely at an all SBC first team linebacker here, potentially in the running for some type of defensive player of the year. So you got to put that on there. You can't not talk about that. JaVale Gilmore is a massive slam dunk. Who else you got?
So it's second for me is Jalen Marshall, someone that we were high on and the coaching staff was high on last year, but he ended up getting injured right before the season started, and he only got to play the last 4 games of the year. So you look at the stats, they're not there. You look at the entire body of, hey, these coaches were thinking this might be the guy at linebacker, or he might be right there or a step behind Gilmore at linebacker. Uh, that leaps off the page at you. I think now that he's healthy, you're going to see him in the starting position and he and Gilmore together, and Phil still kind of sees it the same way that we do. I think Coach Gibson has already mentioned it that way as well. So I've got Jalen Marshall.
I too have Jalen Marshall, the grad transfer, 6'2", 227. Yep, the stats do not blow you away. Just 5 tackles in 4 games last year. But let me take you all the way back to nearly a year ago. Last August, when the Shrine Bowl he was a senior, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
So when they put out their Shrine Bowl 1000, he was the only guy from Marshall's team that got any type of recognition for the Shrine Bowl. So they expected him to have a big year, so much so that if he went out and performed, he probably was going to get an invite to at least the Shrine Bowl, if not something else. But he goes down right before the season. That season just goes down the tubes. He luckily is able to come back at the end of the year, get some game rep so you don't have a full year off. But he's a physical downhill guy, man. He's one of two guys in particular to me that are the archetype, not just for this Brad Lambert defense, but are the archetype that Tony Gibson covets. That type of player. He could be one of Marshall's biggest defenders this year, and he didn't even get to make an impact the way he wanted to last year. I think a lot of the conference is probably thinking the same thing, like, why is this guy getting all this hype? Because they didn't see him at all last year. And this is just like I talked about with Judah Price in the running back episode. You're going to find out in real time when it happens. When his face mask is in your chest and you're going backwards, then you'll realize why the hype is there. But yes, give me Gilmore and give me Marshall.
All right, my third and final that I have as a starter is Cannon Lewis, and he's someone that wasn't on the field as much as I thought last year that he would have been, and I think that he is poised to be on the field a lot more reps this year, and he's that sideline to sideline guy. He just seems to me like your prototypical middle linebacker that's going to be around every tackle. The guy. I hate to compare someone to recent history of how they played in the Sun Belt, but I think of him the same way I do a Henderson or a Marshall, from ODU or from Troy, that had just obscenely high tackle numbers because they were in assisting on every tackle. That's the kind of coverage sideline to sideline that I'm expecting from him at a middle linebacker position.
Yeah, Cannon Lewis is my number third projected starter as well, and he played early and a lot in the as a true sophomore last year, or a redshirt freshman, I guess. And it was kind of cool to watch because I felt then that the guy was just getting better with every defensive series.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, some of the reps went away, and some other guys like Kerryon Martin came on really big, and then Alameen came on really big, and Parker started coming on really big, and then the snap count just kind of went down. But he's the other one that I feel like is the blueprint for what Tony Gibson would build in a custom create a player linebacker.
Yeah.
Cannon Lewis is such a throwback looking linebacker. He's what I think of when I think of like a 90s linebacker, relentless, absolutely relentless. He's in on every single play, it seems like. 30 tackles last year, 14 of those solo, a half a tackle for loss and half a sack to go along with 2 quarterback hurries. Expect those numbers to go way up. I think tackle totals could be double, if not more. You would think he's going to be living in the backfield quite a bit more. Some tackles for loss are going to be tallied. And, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to save it for strengths and weaknesses because I can tell you why I feel this way about some of these guys. I feel like this is a breakout year, to not get ahead of myself, but I feel like this might be the breakout year for Cannon Lewis, and he showed his flashes last year, man. You want to move into heavy contributors.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm going to start off with Chasen Clark. He's someone that Coach Gibson mentioned several different times, once here on the show, but he's mentioned him, on different media junkets and things like that, of just the elevation that he's seen from him. Did not play a whole lot last year as far as reps go and the stats go, but also maybe was in a different role. I think they had him maybe more of, if I'm remembering right, coming off the edge. They didn't have an edge rusher, but was trying to make him at defensive line and things, or defensive end. He's going to be right up there with Lewis, in my opinion, of more reps equals a lot more production. And I would expect him to be on the field quite a bit.
I would absolutely expect him to be on the field quite a bit. Chasen Clark falls right here for me as well. The junior, 6'1", 205, trusted depth player at this point, right? He's going to be playing a lot of rep. We know that. These guys are going to be cycling quite a bit. That's just something that we are expecting to see, keeping guys as healthy as they can, as fresh as they can, and as impactful as they can through 4 quarters and maybe some overtime. Chasen had 7 total tackles last year, 3 of those solo, and he notched a tackle for loss to go along with 4 quarterback hurries. He played in 11 games, but how much of that was like meaningful linebacker play?
Special teams,
right?
Yeah.
But I do think between Clark and Lewis and Clark,
you already stole it, man. You already stole it.
These are this is the future of the Herd linebacking core. These 2 guys right here are the future of the linebacking core. You got a senior and a redshirt, or grad transfer and a redshirt senior, 1 and 2 right now in our eyes, with Cannon Lewis and Chasen Clark right behind those 2. This is the future of this duo. Is your future. He's way more than a depth piece. It would not surprise me at some point to see him get a start or 2 at some point throughout the season.
All right, my next one that I have is Josiah Simmons, and I like the slimming down from 249 to 228, but he's had a year here at college, and he's had a year in Dwight Galt's nutrition and training and exercise and strength program. It's not just strength. He's not just a strength guy. He's about the flexibility, the speed, everything that we've talked about. And Simmons, man, I really like that size at 6'2", 228. But look for him to get a lot of heavy rotation, in my opinion.
Probably going to be a rotational type player. We'll get some game action this year. You got to think that's when you hear us talk about guys, and why they covet portal players in certain positions because they've been through a college strength program. That's living proof right there. Is they again and changed his body type. They dropped him 15 pounds, 20-ish
20,
pounds,
21 pounds.
21 pounds, and that's not just sheer weight. That's probably an overall body transformation. He's
Yeah,
no
maybe he
doubt.
lost 30 pounds and he put 9 on in muscle, you
Yeah,
know?
he's no doubt leaner, meaner, faster, and built the way you need to be built in this game.
Mhm.
So a year in the program, a year in the weight room, the nutritional program, he's going to see some game rep this year, man. I think you're right.
All right, and last for me, because I only listed 3 on the
Okay.
heavy contributors, is I've got EJ McAdams, and it's going to echo the same thing I said about Simmons, is he has a year here in this program. Even though we're looking at a defensive scheme change, not 100% of it's changing, but you're not changing the being here in this culture of
Mm-hmm.
this team, being here about the weight room and everything. He doesn't have it the same way these true freshmen, these incoming high school players are going to have it. He's been here for a year. Also, like his size, 6'1", 214, he's put on 7 pounds from last year. So you got uh, McAdams going up, and you've got Simmons going down to try to get closer to where they want them to be. And I just think that you're going to see him as yet another rotational depth piece to round out these linebackers.
Yeah, it's where he falls for me as well because I look at the overall picture. And yes, we've
Mhm.
talked about McBride going through the cycle as a linebacker, but you didn't go out and get any linebackers.
Mhm.
You went out and you only brought in 2 high school guys. So that tells me you've got a lot of faith in the guys that remained in your program. So
Mhm.
if you do that, if you connect those dots, then this is where McAdams should fall for you as a guy who's going to try to start breaking in to show that he can earn more game rep, right? But these guys are going to find their way on the field. If it's one thing that I think I know about Lambert is like he will demand a lot of his linebackers. His expectations will be extremely high on them, and there's nowhere for you to hide from him because he's your position coach.
Mhm.
So you've got to have your ducks in a row, right? And guys that have been in the program for a year have a leg up on the newcomers coming in. So these guys, while they might be Davies and Parker, while they might be talented guys, you can't help but think they're a step behind the guys that have been here and been in this program. So will we potentially see Davies and Parker? Sure. Not saying you won't. I'm
Yeah,
just
because
saying
nowadays you got 5 years to play 5 years.
I'm
So,
just
you
saying
don't have to worry about saving someone's red shirt.
I don't think you can give them the nod over returning players at this
Same.
point. At this point.
Right.
All right,
Yep.
so let's talk about some strengths and weaknesses. 3-3 for me
Uh,
this week.
I got 4 and 2, so 4 on the strengths. So why don't I start and then I'll finish on the strengths. I've
Okay.
got number 1 experience. Our returning players have a lot of playing time under their belts and in this culture, which I think is a huge part of it. Every time that you talk to these players or hear these players, last week Jed and I covered SBC Media Days, and Wody and Carlos Del Rio Wilson. They both talked about Marshall specifically and the culture that's here, the culture within the team that they built, and that the culture this year is stronger than it was last year, which you would automatically assume considering everyone was getting to know each other last year for the first time. But I think that experience that we have returning so much and what you just said here, that they did not go out and get another portal transfer linebacker because they're comfortable with that. We just listed off the top 6 returning players that we expect to get some playing time. And I don't think that that's a coincidence, just like you.
Yeah, I don't either. But um, while very prevalent, experience is most certainly a big strength. My number one overall strength is Brad Lambert's defensive scheme. The return to a 4-man front is probably the single biggest positive in favor for these linebackers. They're going to have cleaner reads, cleaner lanes. They're going to be able to trust their instincts more and attack downhill more. The scheme fits this room. We've seen it. We have seen what linebackers are able to do in Brad Lambert's schemes. And we've talked about many times already that Tony Gibson told us flat out, we want to be multiple. We want to be truly, truly multiple. And that puts these guys in such flexible positions that their talents can be exploited to the nth degree, man, because Lambert's going to put the winning combo on the field depending on what they're trying to do. And it might not be the same 2 or 3 guys, So I think the mind that was hired to come in and retool this defense is the number 1 overall strength. What's your number 2?
Well, I didn't have them listed in order, but I also had to split 2 of mine. Just talked exactly what you talked about, but I had them split out in 2 different things. So I'll go with Brad Lambert first. My 4th that I had listed was Brad Lambert and a change of scheme. He has always had good defenses, and the adaptive scheme he has that is going to be in place this year should be just what the doctor ordered. And you go back to when he was here under Donnan, our defenses were just absolutely dominant, man, just tremendous. Some of the greatest all-time athletes that we had here on the defense. People still talk about them. And then when he came back, we had a top defense. Man, how many points a game? Wasn't it like 7 points a game that we gave up in 2020?
I don't know. It was pretty dominant defense in 2020.
Yeah. And, Brad Lambert's he's a defensive guy. He's been a head coach, but he's been a defensive guy. And him being over the linebackers, this being his baby, Tony Gibson previously being a linebackers coach and everything, you just imagine that this scheme is going to be tailored for this group. So you're 100% right. It's got to be him. If you want, I'll go ahead and do my second part of that. The third one that I had is versatility. 4-2-5, yeah. 3-4, yeah. 4-3, yeah. 3-3-5 stack, yeah. This unit's ready for whatever Brad Lambert and Tony Gibson decide to morph into based on what they are facing. And as you've mentioned with McBride, and I also want to put Keydell Painter in there because he was the other edge. Could we see those edge athletes as part of the linebacker unit at times? So you go out there, you're in a 4 down, but maybe it's 4-2-5, and then all of a sudden you slide one of those guys back at an outside linebacker. All of a sudden you're in a 3-3-5. The offense that's on the field is not ready for that. They're ready for something else because of what you showed their formation earlier in that series. So I just think they've got so much versatility that they can do whatever they want with this linebacking crew.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that. It's not a strength of mine because I don't want to single out one player as a strength of the unit, but I want to talk about McBride and Painter, and I most certainly think you will see them lined up on the outside of the linebacking line of defense. These guys are like catalysts for what these guys are going to be able to do a lot of times, I think. Think about being able to drop, show – you think McBride's coming in off the line, coming around the edge, coming hard, and then he drops back into coverage, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, what's this looking? And the next thing you know, there goes Lewis on a middle blitz, or you got Gilmore coming from the outside linebacker blitz, or whatever. He drops back, and you're going to bring a nickel on the blitz or something, just something. There's so much that those hybrid guys, Painter and McBride, are going to add to this linebacking room. So I'm saying you can't help but talk about them. You have to. They're not true linebackers in this defense, but boy, they're going to play a lot like them at times. But back to my number 2 strength. My number 2 overall strength for this unit is sideline to sideline pursuit, man. Team speed. At Marshall, Brad Lambert and Tony Gibson expects this unit to be frickin' everywhere. Outstanding pursuit, excellent communication, fast, physical, relentless, and to limit those explosive plays at the second level. I just don't think you'll see too many of those runs that we saw last year break through at times because your first line of defense has 3 men instead of 4. I feel like this unit's going to turn into a literal wall of run defense in a lot of circumstances, but you cannot run from this relentless team speed at this level. You can't deny it. It's prevalent.
Well, my final strength, I am going to say that you definitely have someone spying and reading my notes. And I don't know if it's Jackson or Evelyn or Caitlin or maybe even one of my puppies, but somebody's feeding you my stuff because I have speed and sideline to sideline coverage. This unit seems to be stacked with athletic playmakers capable of running down whomever, wherever, whenever.
Yeah. I think your kids are texting my kids, and then, anyway.
Yeah.
My number 3 strength is winning the money downs. We talked about earlier the 3rd down and 4th down percentages. The championship defenses get off the field. That's what they do. They don't let drives keep extending. They get off of the field. So this group has to be able to consistently create disruption. I think they're built to disrupt. That's the name of the freaking episode, right? They are built to disrupt. These guys will finish tackles short of the sticks. I mean, all of these just throwback type linebackers that we were talking about, these hard-nosed ball hawking guys, they will go head up on anybody, right? These are the type of backers that you want. The guys that force punts, stop runs short of the line, give your offense extra possessions because you're able to get off the field. I think you're going to see an uptick of 3rd down success rates and 4th down success rates in 2026 as opposed to 2025. Let's talk some concerns if you have a few.
I have 2, but you've got 3, so why don't you lead us off?
All right. My number 1 concern is health and proven depth. Because we've got some guys coming back from injury. We had some guys that experienced some injury last year. The top 5 backers I feel like are pretty outstanding, and I'm kind of tossing McBride and Painter in there a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at Gilmore and Marshall and Lewis and even Clark to a degree, those are proven guys that can play meaningful football for you, and they most likely will play meaningful football for you. But if you lose 1 or 2 of those guys, all of a sudden you're into kind of a youth movement. Maybe your defensive scheme has to change what you were hoping to be able to do, and you see McBride slide back into more of a linebacker role full time. I don't want to see that kind of stuff. I want to see the flexibility and the creativity that Brad Lambert and this crew is going to be able to put forth. But health and proven depth after really the top 4 or 5 guys is a concern for me.
Well, that's my number 2 that I had listed here. And I said, though experienced, as mentioned before, this room truly only had Gilmore out there for the majority of the reps last season for each game. Can the rising players be up to task? And the rising players, I have to include Jalen Marshall in there. He only played 4 games last year and had 5 tackles. But mainly, I was talking about Lewis, Clark, Simmons, and McAdams in there to be those rising players that are getting better roles than what they had last year.
Number 2 concern is finding the right personnel, finding the right special sauce, right? That all these guys bring something different to the table, and all of them, I believe, accentuate each other to a degree. But you cannot tell me that there are not combinations of linebackers that are going to be better on the field than other combinations of linebackers. So who finishes games? Who plays passing downs, known passing downs? Who handles short yardage, right? And I just feel like finding that early, finding out who those guys are for you early is critical, because you can't afford to be figuring it out in week 4, and in game 4. You need to kind of know who's got which combos have the secret sauce. And so while I'm not worried, it's a concern. That's all that is.
Well, I had very similar. I put the different packages and schemes works out terrifically on paper. We're talking about it right now that, hey, if they start running the ball too much, we just go into this one. If they start passing too much, we go into this one. Need a matchup, go into this one. It all works great on paper. The execution has to happen, though. And that is a concern to me. Will we get caught off guard and have those packages exploited? The same as we are trying to catch the offense off guard and slide someone back. What if we're in a 3-3-5 and all of a sudden they say, well, we plan for this. Let's run the ball right up the gut or out to the outside or whatever. And we get those chunk plays given up like we did last year. Doesn't matter the package. They know that we're going to be morphing into these different ones. If they have something available right then that they say, if they go into this, we're doing this, it does look good on paper. We have to see the execution. It's a concern for me.
Fancy you should say that, because my number 3 concern is cohesive execution as a unit. You mentioned it. We saw Gilmore and Lewis on the field together a little bit, but not a lot. We saw Marshall at the end of the year, and we saw Clark sparingly. But these guys are going to be asked to really carry a load this year. Gilmore's done it, yep. But Marshall, Lewis, Clark are all going to be asked to carry a much larger load and responsibility in 2026. And like I said before, the expectation is going to be extremely high because your defensive coordinator is your position coach.
Yep.
So it's a concern. You've got, until you show me, I can't help but just hope we figure it out, and because we haven't seen it from this unit of guys throughout a whole season yet. So very fair points, I might add. Let's talk to Thundercast 5. Russ, who's your biggest loss from a year ago?
Well, it's Alameen, and he's edging out Martin because Alameen had another year. It's basically, you look at the stats between them and Parker even, they were all very, very similar. But to me, it's Alameen who went to Kansas. If he comes back, then, Martin didn't have any more time. Parker didn't have any more time. Alameen comes back. We're talking even more depth and even more experience, even more speed and sideline to sideline. So to me, that makes it the hardest to replace.
Yeah, same here. He was my biggest to replace as well. He would have been a veteran in the system, provided very valuable leadership at that second level. But alas, he has decided to take his last year and go to the America's heartland, I guess. So, whatever. I mean, maybe Kansas is cool, but I like Huntington. Who's you most excited to watch this year?
Cannon Lewis turned loose. I think that with a bigger role and everything that we talked about, with him being that middle linebacker, sideline to sideline, being in on every tackle, I just think it's going to be a major impact, and I'm excited to see it.
I'm most excited to see Javay Gilmore in this Brad Lambert defense. I think we're already looking at the beginnings of an all SBC first team linebacker. And if some stuff goes right, I mean, imagine him going out and showing out at Penn State right out of the gate and putting a big stamp on the resume early to an SBC Defensive Player of the Year campaign. I'm really excited to see what Brad Lambert has in store for Gilmore because we've already seen him be pretty freaking outstanding a year ago. So who are you? Who's your breakout player?
Well, you stole it earlier, but I'm saying the breakout is going to be the tandem, the Explorers, Lewis and Clark. I think that both of them are primed to be in these bigger roles, step in and really produce. So I'm cheating. I'm taking 2, but that's the 2 I'm going. But I could be excited or I could think that Marshall could break out because he didn't really get to play last year. These 2. Those others in Simmons and McAdams, I think that they could break out. You could even see an Andre Parker or a Bryson Davies break out because they are brand new here. That even just a little bit that they come in, if they show a bunch of glimpses that you could say, future, there's the future right there. So you could have so many different breakouts, but I have to go with those 2. And of course, I had to come up with the goofy Explorers, Lewis and Clark name.
Well, I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I expect Cannon Lewis to break out because I thought he was going to do it last year, and all of a sudden the
Mm-hmm.
reps just started to decrease throughout the season. But 30 tackles ain't nothing to sneeze at. That would be a pretty decent season for a lot of guys that are depth pieces, and that's what he turned into. It's just his season was front loaded.
Mm-hmm.
But I expect him to go absolutely insane this year with the statistics. And I did give also a slight nod to Chase and Clark because I believe we're going to watch the future of herd linebacking unfold on the field at times while those guys are on the field together. And if herd fans pay attention to that, you'll be able to get an early glimpse, hopefully, of what your 2027 linebackers will look like. Because, man, these young guys have really potential to be a dynamic duo. I mean, I can't believe we've gone 46-ish minutes into this episode and we haven't said he's a loose cannon, but that's exactly what you want to see, him running crazy.
Well, I came so close because on Most Excited to See, I said Lewis turned loose, and I did not connect that the way I should have.
It's all right. You'll get it next time, Booby.
Yeah, he was a cannon turned loose.
Who's your MVP?
It's Gilmore. He's the guy with the most returning reps, the most returning production. He's the guy that had the SEC speed that we coveted so much and that we thought was going to be so well in this system here. And you mentioned it earlier. Now it's a Brad Lambert system that he's built for. So I think all that together is going to make him the MVP.
Yep, I agree. It's JaVale Gilmore for me, too. This is an SEC build on a Sun Belt defense with Brad Lambert orchestrating the whole damn thing. That just screams MVP to me. Who's your sleeper?
It's Simmons. I'm really intrigued on the weight drop, and he falls into that sleeper category because he's not in that starting conversation. He's not Chase Clark is who we think might be the first off the bench. It might not even be up there with McBride and Painter that could slide back. I feel like he's not getting any of the talk. So to me, that makes him a sleeper. He's got the size, the pedigree, and I think that he could be a good one.
Well, I don't know that it gets any more of a sleeper than Jalen Marshall. No stats to
good.
talk about. A lot of hype, injury. A lot of people are like, what? He didn't do anything last year. And he's a second team preseason, Phil Steele linebacker. Yeah. Sleeping, right? You guys are sleeping because this guy's got also the potential to be a first team all conference linebacker. A lot of people see it, and to me, that just says sleeper. We aren't seeing it, but other people are. And it's not going to surprise me for him to have that 50, 60, 70 tackle season, and then we'll go, damn, really wish he didn't get injured last year because we could have used that, right? So the grad transfer, one final hurrah, or right, the grad student, not a transfer, but the grad student, one last hurrah. You going to leave it all out on the field this year? Sleeper, man. He's the sleeper. Final verdict, Russ, is this room better in 26 than it was in 25?
Yes, it is. We're going to see an increase in production. We're going to see that production, not just those little stats of tackles and things like that, but I think that we're really going to see a drastic change in the speed, the ferocity that we're going to see out of this unit. I think they're going to come to eat. And I think that it unequivocally is going to be better in a Brad Lambert linebacker defense.
Bold typeface YES. Yes, this group will be better in 26 than the group was in 25 on paper and ultimately on the field. Brad Lambert, I mentioned this, will have his fingerprints all over this group. The return to the four-man front, I think, just will create so much freedom for these linebackers to play their game, exploit their instincts and talents. Man, they're going to be playing faster. They're going to be playing more physical than they did a season ago, and they played pretty fast and physical last year. The expectation isn't really just for these guys to make more tackles. It's to create consistent disruption, man. Living in the backfield, winning third and fourth down, getting off of the freaking field. If Marshall's consistently going to play and try to compete for a Sun Belt championship this year, this linebacker room has every opportunity to become the heartbeat of this defense. Bottom line, this room is built to disrupt, and I think that we're going to see a lot of it in 2026. Any final words on linebackers?
I've got a final word, but it's on Secure Construction, and I just want to thank them again and tell all the fans to thank them as well. When you're calling for your free estimate, whether it was the last 6 weeks where we talked about roofing or this next 6 weeks where we're talking about safe and secure bathrooms, when you're calling for that free inspection, make sure to mention the Thundercast so they know that they got seen here by Herd fans on this show. And just give them a little thanks that they help bring this content to you. As always, it's free, and it's always because of our sponsors. So with that, I'm going to say, whether you see us at the Dot, whether you see us at the Vet, or whether you see us at C-Lot of the football stadium that's coming up so soon, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the Thundercast. We're going to flip back over to the offensive side of the football. We only got a few left. Who's it going to be? He's going to have to come back next week. Find out. Later.